Good morning, everybody. This is Frank with Iron Age News here at the South Florida Conservative News Service. It is Monday, June 30th, the last day of Pride Day. So get out there and make it count. Make it count. 11:28 a.m. And this is a continuing observation, personal opinion more so than anything else, based on a number of things. CNN, of course, has been losing its shit since the day of and after the U.S. bombing of Iranian positions, in the fact that they say that nothing was done, that the sand was very evil and a lot of sand was killed, which is a reversal on the line from Generation Kill, which was you killed a lot of sand. The sand was very evil. So, because I don't want to get sued. But yeah, that's kind of where they're going. Anything to demean the Trump administration and make it look like they're a bunch of fools. Uh, but it did get the Iranians to the peace table, kind of. The new thing, of course, as you see, is the pre-recorded conversations and the pre-recorded words of Ayatollah Khamenei, which is he won the war, evil Jews, evil Americans, evil American Jews. There's a combination of evil American and Jews in there all the time. And there is a good thing about the way this is going and the whole world of Middle Eastern warfare and where we are and things like that. And you sort of laugh about it because it's not the intended consequence of what the American media is doing. American media is there to demean Trump, of course. And but as we know, that's all it's there to do. And let's talk about this for a second, and let's hope the thing came up, and it did. Okay, we're going to go beyond the headlines and beyond Steve Bannon's war room and all the other bullshit, and we're going to cut through the noise and yada, yada, yada. So, as we said, it's been called reckless, exaggerated, even a humiliating flop. That was CNN. Trump's June bombing raid on Iran's nuclear program drew sneers from the international press. Funny though it was, go back. There'll be a link if you're on here somewhere to the South Florida Conservative.com. You can go to our 44 hours of delay for the bomb assessment, which was all involving the leak and who was trusted with the leak and who wasn't, and why we know it was all a bunch of nonsense. So anyway, we have the leaked intelligence memo, which was probably from DIA at this point. However, as we know, this was an initial intelligence report, which was done prior to any meaningful reconnaissance, any meaningful satellite surveillance, things of that nature. And that was why it came back on the iffy side, as we'll say, because they had no way of acknowledging what went on. The BDA, the bomb damage assessment, that comes later is the one you want to look at, and that could still be ongoing. You've seen the videotapes where there is a giant lake coming up, a lake of green fluid. That doesn't look healthy, did it? Didn't look really healthy. And the fact that the Iranians wouldn't go that close to it should tell you that someone was a little afraid. So somebody blew up somebody's water main in the basement of that place, right? And that's all that really matters at this point. So what are we calling a failure when the failure probably just won the war? Okay, that's really what you have to say. Trump's bombing failure may have won the war. So right after the strikes, Trump stood at the podium declaring Iran's nuclear ambitions were obliterated. At the same time, the IAEA's Rafael Grossi told reporters Iran could be back in business in a matter of months. How Senor Grossi knows this with the limited amount of information that anybody in their right mind would give to the United Nations is beyond me, except that he worked from the same leaked DIA memo and then called somebody in Iran who said, oh yeah, nothing happened, we're walking it off. Doesn't have the time. Once again, when we talk time windows for acknowledgement of availability of things, Grossi's doesn't fit, but we know the UN lies. We know Grossi and his people have a vested interest in discrediting the United States and Israel. I think the United Nations is changing its name to the Jew Hater Club because that's all they seem to do all day. Nobody does anything about world hunger. World hunger's out the door when we can hate Jews, right? So he's a big question mark, but we'll let that one go. We'll let that one go. So CNN carried it, The Guardian carried it, Reuters, which is no longer a news service, I think, at this point. And just like that, the narrative set, bang. Trump exaggerated, Iran survived, UN wins the fact check, and we're going to look past these simpletons and the lies that are now going to pass as truth. And here we see a little bit of a different picture. We see independent satellite analysis revealed something else entirely. You have these collapsed tunnel shafts at Fort Al, massive cave-ins, blown roof structures in the Natanz, earth-moving equipment that they're trying to haul out debris where the underground centrifuges used to be. They're still trying to get at the thing to see for themselves what's wrong. Unofficially, the site is toast. And if you understand how nuclear facilities work and nuclear material manufacturing, this isn't let's go to Home Depot and get some new shit and start again. You're looking at a 5 to 10 years to restore even the basic operations. Where are the clean rooms coming from, right? Where is it's the simple things like that, because these have to be done in a dustless state. There's a lot of dust in that hole right now, right? Even if the stuff is sitting down there and it was remarkably unharmed, the whole facility is done in. You need precision centrifuges. You have to have sterile environments. There's vacuum systems have to go. They are all gone. So not exactly back a few months, Mr. Grossi, but it's how it works. So here's where it gets strategic. And those of you who let me go off camera again, I keep telling you about this book. It doesn't cost that much. All right. Harold Rode knows what he's talking about. It's a short book, not as short as the book that we just put out, but it is a short book and it explains the Arab mindset for warfare. So Trump and the Israelis could really, really have rubbed Tehran's nose in the dirt. All right. Instead, they're letting the Ayatollah run his mouth and declare survival. And why is that? Granted, Trump does say some stuff, but nothing really like he's like, you need me to come bomb you again? I'll come bomb you again. But that's a different kind of thing. All right. In Arab warfare psychology, everybody will tell you this. If they don't, they're lying to you. It's well known. In really global strongman logic, you could go the same way. Perception is everything. That's why you see CNN lie openly about everything in the United States. Perception is everything. If the Iranian government says it survived, it avoids lashing out. It declares victory, and crucially, it gives Trump and Israel room to de-escalate while locking in the actual damage. Okay, you get what I'm saying? Meanwhile, behind the curtain, Iran now lives with a new reality. Its nuclear assets are in a ruin. Satellite surveillance is constantly on them now. And the next strike may not be conventional. You have to realize Iran is resorting to using BB guns and lewd gestures to knock down aircraft at this point. The surface-to-air missile systems are all gone. The ones that are riding around the city are still going to have a chance to be killed. Okay? They are almost powerless. They would have to rush weapons into the country. And if the Chinese and Russians want to get caught doing so, it is up to them entirely to kick off a new trade war with the United States, as we are just settling the Chinese in, right? It would be stupid for them to do so because the United States is not forcing regime change. That would be their only excuse. We can't allow regime change. The U.S. is not asking for it. The U.S. just wants everybody to sit down and shut up. Okay, so Iran can strut on television all at once. It knows if it reactivates its enrichment program, Israel may not wait, and the U.S. definitely will look the other way this time. I will tell you, if it is this president or Vance or somebody like that, and Iran jumps up and says, we're 2 weeks from a bomb, that'll be the last thing that comes across the television from Iran, because there'll be no holding back the Israelis at that point. Depends again on who's in charge of Israel at the time. Okay. So in this failure, here's who's really winning here. And this is great for diplomacy. People don't understand this and they don't understand this Arab stuff. Iran, they get to scream resistance, on state television. They get to maintain domestic morale and they don't have to retaliate because surviving is winning. If you're fighting in Arabia and you maul them and you let them not have to surrender, they consider that a win. I mean, you could have really flattened, we could have Stone Aged this country. But as long as we didn't bring them to the table and make them quit, they win. This is true. Go ask your professor at school. Okay. So they do not have to retaliate because we did not beat them. Now, the UN, they get to sound important because they know, they're on their last legs with Trump as it is, and they got nowhere to go but down with the Jews. So they got to hope EU or somebody else props them up on things. So they get, like I said, they get to sound important. They get to hit the old business travel plan again. They can demand more inspections while staying on message. Now, they may go there and collude with the Iranians. That's fine. It probably is what's going to occur. Trump and Israel, for their part, they quietly removed Iran's breakout capability and they planted a tripwire. Israel, on the other hand, they just have to wait and wait to see what happens with the Ayatollah because they have hitters in the field. The IRGC is the problem here. It's not Khomeini. Khomeini could die tomorrow, but then jihad really kicks in because then it's retaliation for killing their leader. If he dies from the flu or whatever, then very little that can be done at that point. The war is off, but the IRGC is still there to continue the war for good. So the IRGC becomes the target. And they may have killed a bunch of the leaders, but in any good mafia, there are some lieutenants hiding in the background who have now moved to the front. So that's where you say with this thing, this is how this is going. This is chess. It's not checkers. Trump doesn't need the world to cheer. He needs Iran at the negotiating table with its teeth pulled, and that is what is happening. Regardless of what they are talking shit in the news right now, this is what is happening. If you saw the last report, Trump said, I can't believe he's talking all this shit when I'm sitting there trying to take the embargoes off of these guys. Right? So he's thinking about removing a lot of the strict embargo stuff that's on Iran, which would allow Iran to get their head out of the ground and move forward. But the minute they start playing with nuclears, of course, it goes right back on. Much different than President Obama just giving them money when they were out there with nuclear ambitions, okay? So that's what we have happening now. So this was never about a headline thing, although Trump loves the headlines, all right? Anybody who says Trump doesn't love the headlines is a liar. But the thing is, he's got so many ass points right now, he can take a W going to an L because he knows the truth. It's one thing when he thinks that people don't know the truth or he doesn't know the truth, but he understands the situation. So at this time, it's about deterrence and leverage. Iran now faces a hard choice, right? Rebuild and risk annihilation, which you will get because, like I said, the Israelis were actually going to trot out their nuclear weapons this time. If we hadn't bombed the facilities with the B-2, Iran was going to hit them with their version of nuclear weapons, which I think is a hydrogen bomb. It's a dirtier bomb, not as bad as the neutron, but pretty bad, which would have also, if it caught the right wind, would have endangered so many people. It's not even funny. Okay. So risk annihilation or comply and survive. Now, the Ayatollah needs to keep oppressing these people because he just gets off on it. The IRGC needs to keep the Ayatollah oppressing the people because they're involved in drug dealing, tech theft, all kinds of other shit. They are a criminal organization and they have to continue to, mess around in other countries. But the FAFO codicil is going to be that. We catch them out there in the open next time, and there's not going to be any wrist slapping. People are going to be killed. People are going to be taken somewhere and show trialed and everything else. So they have to start to learn how to step a little lighter. All right. This is going to be good for maybe 10 to 20 years, but that's 10 to 20 years we don't have to worry about it. So next time you hear someone say, well, Trump's bombing raid didn't work, you just, like I said, at this point, I've gotten to such a point where you just say, you smile and ask them when they think Iran's next centrifuge cascade will be up and running. Okay. And that's it. And you're just going to be waiting a long time to hear the answer to that. So that's all I have on this one. But this is something that would be studied depending on what goes on in the next 2 to 3 months. And as far as the peace process goes, this is an instance which will be studied at international policy schools. No, it won't be right away because there's too much onus against President Trump. But once everybody gets their head out of their ass and you get all the communists out of the academia, then yeah, this is the kind of thing that shows application of local ideology and thought processes. This is something that President Trump had already said when he was in Saudi Arabia, which is we can't be the guy who flies in a suit on a plane, can't be the one that judges and tells the people of Arabia what to do. He did tell them about the nuclear system, which is a general threat to every Arab country, but he didn't force regime change. Okay. So he's still pretty high up in the Arab books. And even though they all hate Iran, he's still one of the boys. You know, that's the problem with Arabia. They could hate the Iranians. They could hate them all. They want them dead, but they can't have a foreigner do it. And until they get blocked down 1 or 2 more steps, and Saudi Arabia once again becomes the head of the Islamic world, which it will be in the next 2 to 3 years, probably, because Iran is going to show themselves to be apostate, then yeah, then they can do something with these guys. All right. So did I say it before? Get this book and read it. And you don't have to listen to me anymore. 81 pages. 81 pages, and you would have understood everything that's going on out there. And unfortunately, the State Department, up until recently, did and road worked for them. You know, but a little anti-Semitism over at the State Department too. So we ain't gonna listen to the Jews when it comes to dealing with the Arabs. But then again, who had to feel? If you don't want to listen, you got to feel, is what they used to tell you. So that's about it. Have a good day. Monday, June 30th, 11:45 in the afternoon. Bye.